Mr. Guanitai orders an iced chocolate for himself, and Raehwa finds it completely at odds with his appearance. As he hands her his business card, he asks what she expects from him. She hesitates, aware that her request might seem unusual. An ordinary woman making a significant demand from a private military company. But she needs his help. Without hesitation, she proposes marriage. His initial reaction is shock, followed by a skeptical remark about her sanity. However, she insists that she is perfectly rational and believes he is the only person reckless enough to take on the task. To make the arrangement worthwhile, she offers $2 billion, with half of the payment provided up front. All he has to do is protect her for a year. He raises a practical concern: whether they need to live together. When she responds with a question of her own, he suddenly bursts into laughter. Then, without further argument, he agrees. Raehwa is the only daughter of Daesan Construction, yet people recognize her more as the daughter of Ryu Seoryeon. Her mother, known for both her striking beauty and artistic talent, rose to fame in the Korean art scene, eventually becoming a celebrity. With many admirers vying for her attention, she ultimately chose to marry Lee Jung-won. After their marriage, she withdrew from the art world and vanished from the public eye. Years later, she resurfaced with a completely transformed artistic style, capturing global recognition. However, her resurgence was short-lived. She was suddenly found dead in her own studio, having taken her own life. The shocking incident shifted media attention to her daughter, Raehwa, who had been discovered at the scene in front of her mother. Despite the relentless media coverage and speculation, Lee Jung-won refused to speak on the matter. 10 years later, Raehwa welcomes Gwon Itae, who casually requests a glass of iced chocolate. As he waits, he questions why she is working part-time at a cafe despite having assets worth $2 billion. She explains that maintaining a regular social life is said to be beneficial for mental health. Shifting the conversation, she asks why he arrived so early, pointing out that they were supposed to meet at home. Ignoring her question, he instead brings up a different concern: whether she had sought her father's permission before getting married. She confirms that she didn't, revealing that her father is against the marriage. Acknowledging the situation as a serious issue, he remarks that it was never going to be easy to receive $2 billion without complications. Curious about her informal way of speaking, he asks why she addresses him so casually. She explains that he is a year younger than her. In response, he playfully calls her old and accuses her of doing it just to make herself seem younger. Teasing further, he asks if she would prefer that he call her darling, honey, or Nuna. She dismisses all of them and tells him to simply use her name. Pulling out a photo, he informs her that the guy in the picture has been following him since morning and asks if she recognizes him. Her body tenses when she realizes that the man is one of her father's subordinates. Before she can react further, Guanitai comments that it looks like he will have to protect his wife from a frightening father-in-law. She agrees, then states that she intends to do something the chairman disapproves of and expects him to protect her for a year. Without hesitation, he turns around and approaches the man who has been tailing him. Confronting him directly, he remarks that his acting is unconvincing. The man feigns ignorance, pretending not to understand, but Guanitai makes it clear: if he continues, he will be reported to the police. Within seconds, Guanitai mercilessly deals with the man, showing no restraint. Meanwhile, Raehwa watches the scene unfold, already worrying about what she will tell the cafe owner. Once he finishes, he casually remarks that the customers must have been shocked by the commotion. The man, now desperate, pulls out a weapon in an attempt to threaten him. Without hesitation, Guanitai responds by drawing his own, leaving the man with no choice but to surrender. As if nothing unusual happened, he then comments on feeling thirsty and requests another glass of iced chocolate. Raehwa had always known what kind of person he was, but witnessing it firsthand is beyond her expectations. She realizes that calling him a lunatic isn't enough. There are no words to fully capture his nature. At the same time, she wonders just how many glasses of iced chocolate he plans on drinking. Pushing aside her thoughts, she asks if they are heading to her house. However, he dismisses the idea, explaining that it wouldn't be safe since trouble might be waiting for them there. 20 minutes have passed since they left the cafe. Raehwa reassures herself that her father will handle the damages, but she still plans to call the owner later, Guanitai suggests heading to the newlyweds' house for now, and she agrees. He then brings up her part-time job situation, advising her to stop looking since this one ended so abruptly. She remains determined, insisting that she will find another one near the house. He suggests working from home instead, but she prefers to keep interacting with people. Amused, she tells him to come watch her while she works. Switching topics, he suddenly asks if she still smokes, but she never did in the first place. Before she can respond further, her phone rings. Her father is calling. Guanitai tells her to answer on speaker. Her father urges her to resolve the issue and return home. The sound of his voice stirs unpleasant memories, bringing back the image of a man whose presence was overwhelming, like a flower with a fragrance strong enough to cause dizziness. Her thoughts drift to her mother, who once seemed like a pure and radiant canvas. Lost in her memories, she barely notices when Guanitai takes her hand. Breaking out of her daze, she says they should get going, but he casually states that he doesn't want to. Ignoring him, she interrupts her father, reminding him of something he always said. When she finds someone she loves, she will understand his feelings. Now, she claims to understand. With unwavering confidence, she tells her father that she loves this man. Even the thought of being apart drives her crazy with worry, and she wants to be by his side at all times. She expresses her desire to protect him and see him every day, then apologizes for her actions. Her father, unimpressed, questions what she is doing at that moment. Before she can answer, Gwon Itae snatches the phone from her. Addressing the older man as father, he quickly corrects himself to father-in-law when he senses the man's displeasure. Chairman Lee Jung-won gets straight to the point, asking how much money would be enough to make Gwon Itae leave his daughter alone. However, Gwon Itae dismisses the offer, stating that he isn't lacking in money. He assures the chairman that there's no need to worry. He earns enough to take care of his wife. The chairman then challenges him, asking if he even knows who he is. Without hesitation, Guanitai states his full title: Chairman Lee Jung-won of Daesan Construction. He then casually adds that he will visit next time, as he is currently busy. Without another word, he throws Raehwa's phone, sending it crashing into the car behind them. Turning to her, he explains that the vehicle following them was sent by her father. The phone had a tracking device attached, and he destroyed it to shake them off. Shocked, she stares at him, demanding to know who he really is. With a playful smirk, he reminds her. He is her husband. To Raehwa, his words sound utterly absurd. From an outsider's perspective, their situation could easily be mistaken for a love marriage, yet she doesn't believe her decision was wrong. In the past, security firms quickly withdrew from her requests under the immense pressure from Daesan. During her search, the one person who didn't back down was Gwon Itae. Among fearless mercenaries, he stood out, bold, unpredictable, and always leaping into danger without hesitation. She had expected something extraordinary from him, but not to this extent. It becomes clear that he isn't just a reckless lunatic. There's more to him than meets the eye. As she watches him, a question lingers in her mind. Why isn't he afraid of her father? More than that, why hasn't he broken the contract yet? If he wanted to, he could walk away, and her father would compensate him generously, enough to retire from the mercenary life entirely. Curious, she voices her thoughts, and he responds with amusement. To him, being with her is far more entertaining than dealing with an old man who has long passed his prime. She questions whether he is truly willing to waste billions just for fun, wondering if he really is insane. Instead of denying it, he laughs, stating that those who know him don't speak with hesitation. They call him a crazy lunatic with absolute certainty. Suddenly, he shifts the conversation, remarking that their current client isn't someone to take lightly. Confused, she asks what he means, and he turns the question back on her. Why isn't she afraid of him? She has been acting completely unfazed this entire time. Without hesitation, she states that there are things far scarier than him. Setting that aside, he presses further, wanting to know what she is trying to achieve by rebelling in this way. Without hesitation, she gives her answer. She wants to paint. His eyes widen in surprise as he stares at her, momentarily speechless. For security reasons, Guanitai chooses his own apartment as their residence. To Raehwa, it doesn't matter whether the place looks like a newlywed's home or not, but the reality of it still catches her off guard. The duplex penthouse is high-priced and extravagant, far more luxurious than necessary for a temporary arrangement. She finds it excessive, considering they will only be living together for a year. More than that, she wonders if he really earns enough to afford such a place. As she continues surveying the living room, his voice interrupts her thoughts. Questioning why she is still standing there, he tells her to come in. Unable to ignore her curiosity, she asks why his home is so lavish. Instead of answering seriously, he playfully asks why she sounds jealous. Leaning in slightly, he teasingly suggests making it joint ownership. Without hesitation, she counters that if he's willing to give, he should give it all, not just share. Brushing off the exchange, she then tells him to put on some clothes, though her mind is still occupied by her suspicions. It's not just the house itself that seems questionable, but the fact that he lives in such a place at all. He notes that a lack of trust between couples is a serious issue before deciding to offer a brief explanation. He warns her to be careful because there are security cameras at the entrance and in the living room. Then he sets a firm rule. His space is on the second floor, and it's dangerous, so she should only go up if absolutely necessary. Aside from that, she is free to use any of the rooms on the first floor. With that, he heads upstairs to wash up while she takes the opportunity to explore the house. Moving through the living room and onto the balcony, her thoughts drift back to the past. Her father's words were always the same. He did everything out of love for her. For a long time, she believed him. As a daughter who faithfully followed his wishes, she tried to mold herself into the ideal family member he wanted. But the day he visited the atelier, she finally realized the truth. The only person her father ever truly loved was her mother. Now, she is ready to leave behind the labels that have defined her for so long. No longer Ryu Seoryeon's daughter, no longer Daesan Group's only daughter. From this moment on, the only title she wants to carry is Guanitai's spouse. As evening settles, Guanitai sits outside, his phone pressed to his ear as he takes a call from Choi Jung. The man on the other end casually asks what he's up to, and Gwon replies that he's working. Without hesitation, Choi Jung informs him that Schmidt is in an uproar, demanding his immediate return. Gwon finds it amusing that their boss is so worked up, but Choi Jung explains that it's because Gwon vanished without a word. Then, wanting confirmation, he asks if Gwon really left for Korea and whether the rumors are true, that he took on a request from Ryu Seoryeon's daughter. Gwon corrects him, emphasizing that her name is Lee Raehwa, before dropping a surprising detail. He agreed to marry her in exchange for 2 billion. Choi Jung reacts with disbelief, struggling to process the information. However, Gwon doesn't dwell on his reaction and instead asks for a favor. Things are more complicated than he initially thought, and something feels off about the whole situation. What started as a simple contract marriage now seems to have deeper layers. He originally assumed that Raehwa was just a rebellious daughter fighting against her stepfather, but the more he looks into it, the stranger things become. He confesses that Lee Jung-won's fixation on Raehwa goes beyond normal parental concern. It's an obsession, and he is determined to control her in ways that don't make sense. There is definitely something happening behind the scenes. Then he brings up another oddity. Raehwa claims she has never smoked. That detail may seem trivial to most, but to him it's significant because he was the one who taught her how. Choi Jung immediately picks up on the implication, asking if Gwon has known her in the past. But Gwon dismisses the idea, refusing to acknowledge any personal connection. Unsatisfied with his vague answer, Choi Jung calls him out, questioning what nonsense he's spewing. Ignoring his skepticism, Gwon shifts the conversation back to business, telling him to come to Korea and assist him. As an incentive, he offers the sapphire that Choi Jung has been after for some time. That gets a reaction. The man on the other end immediately agrees, saying he will form a team right away. Still, curiosity lingers in Choi Jung's voice as he questions Gwon's motives. Security work and a sudden marriage. None of it aligns with his usual patterns. He isn't someone who takes on jobs for money, nor does he involve himself in anything ordinary. His past missions were always in the most dangerous red zones, where the stakes were highest. So, why this? Gwon keeps his answer simple. It's interesting. Before ending the call, Choi Jung gives him a final warning. Raehwa is a well-bred, sheltered rich girl, so Gwon shouldn't harass her. But Gwon doesn't respond, his mind already elsewhere, piecing together the puzzle that is Lee Raehwa. The next morning, Raehwa continues exploring the house, her curiosity leading her to the kitchen. When she opens the freezer, she finds something completely unexpected: cigarettes. She shakes her head, convinced now more than ever that Guanitai is a complete lunatic. Looking around, she wonders if there are any cereals in the house. Before she can check further, Guanitai appears behind her, greeting her with a casual good morning. Turning to face him, she barely acknowledges the greeting, and instead questions whether he has exhibitionist tendencies. His lack of proper clothing bothers her, so she tells him to put something on. However, he insists that what he's wearing is sufficient, then half-heartedly apologizes, explaining that he's just used to walking around like this at home. Not wanting to argue over it, he changes the subject and asks what she's searching for. She tells him she's looking for food since the only things in the freezer are chocolate milk and ice cream. Instead of offering a solution, he asks if she dislikes them. She quickly realizes he's suggesting them as a meal, which only deepens her frustration. Deciding not to waste more time, she announces that she'll just buy something outside. Curious, he asks about her preferences. Without much thought, she lists her absolute favorite, kantori, then mentions a few other things she enjoys, though she feels her taste is old-fashioned. He then flips the question, asking what she dislikes, and without hesitation, she answers, flowers. Her name, Lee Raehwa, means flowers are coming. Her mother chose it, inspired by the town they came from, a place where flowers bloomed all year round. Her mother's workspace had been filled with them, both inside and outside, and their scent lingered on everything. But that place wasn't just a garden. It was where she witnessed her mother's suicide. Though the memory is hazy, her mother's last words remain vivid. Before taking her own life, she told Raehwa that they were the same, that she would end up just like her. Since that day, flowers have only reminded her of that moment, making it impossible for her to like them. Pushing the memory aside, she refocuses on the present. She tells Guanitai to get ready. They'll have breakfast outside and go shopping because she needs to buy a lot of things. As she turns to leave, she makes one more request. She needs him to lend her a shirt. He smirks, clearly amused, and tells her he'll only agree if she calls him honey. She freezes, staring at him in disbelief, but he reminds her that she wanted their marriage to seem real. If that's the case, they should practice in advance. She thought this arrangement would be simple. She never expected it to escalate to something as serious as a marriage registration. More importantly, she never expected to end up with someone like him. Meanwhile, Lee Jung-won sits at his desk, reviewing the information gathered on Guanitai. He confirms that the man is indeed a mercenary, a well-known figure in the private military company, PMC World. He isn't just successful, he has a reputation for completing impossible missions. More concerning, he isn't in his right mind. The report also states that despite numerous offers, he was rejected by both the government and private companies. Clearly, he isn't motivated by money. Even more troubling is the company he works for, DeZero. Unlike ordinary security firms, DeZero isn't one that can be swayed by financial pressure. Hearing this, Lee Jung-won frowns. He wonders who is Guanitai. Looking deeper into his background, he finds something even more suspicious. His identity is a complete fabrication. The name Guanitai doesn't exist. Director Park, standing nearby, advises him to avoid a direct confrontation. Instead, he leans in and whispers something to him. Lee Jung-won listens carefully, then nods in agreement. They'll proceed as the director suggested. After finishing their meal at the restaurant, Raehwa pays the bill. She isn't exactly short on money, but as expected, Guanitai's clothes are slightly big for her. They head to a clothing store, and on the way, he asks what she plans to do with all the attention she's getting. Before she can respond, a girl waves at her from a distance. He asks if it's a friend, but she clarifies that it's her cousin pretending to be close to her. The girl is Lee Se-yeon, the daughter of Lee Hak-soo, her father's younger brother. Unlike her father, who inherited Daesan Construction, his brother was given a single hotel and pushed aside. Lee Hak-soo has always wanted to remove Raehwa from the family so he can pass Daesan Construction down to his own children. Se-yeon pretends to be friendly, but she's actually spying for her father. Whenever she finds something useful, she reports it to Raehwa's dad. The entire family is eager to push her out. Guanitai casually asks what she wants him to do about her cousin, then suggests something extreme. She warns him that doing so would land him in jail, then asks if he's ever been there. Instead of answering, he remains silent. Se-yeon approaches with a handshake and asks how she has been, then wonders why Raehwa hasn't been answering her calls. Raehwa questions if they were ever that close in the first place. Se-yeon apologizes, claiming she was just worried and is relieved to see her. Then, she turns her attention to Gwon Itae and asks who he is. Raehwa immediately notices the shift in her cousin's expression. It's clear she came just to confirm something. Instead of answering, Raehwa remains silent. Gwon Itae steps in, introducing himself as her husband. Se-yeon is taken aback, and before she can recover, he adds that they registered their marriage 2 days ago. Without hesitation, he leans in and presses a kiss to Raehwa's cheek. Se-yeon's surprise deepens, but she quickly composes herself. Smiling, she compliments them and tells Gwon Itae to take care of Raehwa. She adds that while Raehwa may seem cold on the outside, she's actually soft-hearted. As the conversation continues, Se-yeon suddenly brings up Raehwa's past hospitalization for mental health issues. She assumes Gwon Itae already knows, since they're a married couple. Without missing a beat, he turns to Raehwa and asks if there's something wrong with her head. Then, without waiting for a response, he casually adds that he must have issues too, so they're clearly meant for each other. He then shifts his gaze back to Se-yeon, asking if she's curious about his own condition. Without hesitation, he reveals that his problem is being too good at making people disappear without remorse. Because of that, he was once locked in a mental hospital. But eventually they let him out, allowing him to wander the streets because they felt sorry for him. As he speaks, a cold smile plays on his lips, sending chills down Se-yeon's spine. When he threatens her directly, she shivers uncontrollably. Before she can react, he brushes it off, claiming it's just the ramblings of someone with a troubled mind. Unable to take any more, Se-yeon quickly ends the conversation and rushes back to her car. Gwon Itae watches her leave before turning to Raehwa, asking if they can finally go shopping. But instead of responding right away, she looks at him and firmly states that she isn't crazy. She's normal. He meets her gaze and reassures her that she is. A strange sensation spreads through her chest, almost like static electricity tingling inside her. She's spent her entire life trying to prove that she's normal, yet Gwon Itae says it so easily, as if it's simply the truth. And somehow, hearing it from him makes her believe it. Feeling grateful, she thanks him, not just for saying that, but for chasing her cousin away. He cups her face in his hands, locking eyes with her. A smirk tugs at his lips as he tells her she's damn cute. Meanwhile, in the car, Se-yeon bursts into tears. When her mother calls, she sobs uncontrollably. Concerned, her mother asks what's wrong, and Se-yeon cries that it's because of Raehwa. This time, she's completely lost her mind. She then describes the man she saw Raehwa with, struggling to put into words the intense presence he exuded. He was dangerously handsome, exuding a wild, almost predatory charm that was impossible to ignore. Her mother listens in silence before musing that Raehwa must take after her mother after all. She always pretended to be indifferent to men, but now she's clearly showing her true nature. Se-yeon frowns at the comment but doesn't argue. Then, after a brief pause, her mother decides that they should go together to see Raehwa's father. Se-yeon hesitates, her mind racing with thoughts, before finally stating that she knows who Raehwa's so-called husband really is. As Raehwa carefully selects her clothes, Gwon Itae watches for a while before commenting that she's really flexing. Then, with a smirk, he asks if she still has enough money left after giving him such a huge amount. He also wonders if her father didn't freeze her card. Without hesitation, she replies that her father locked it a long time ago. But it doesn't matter. She has plenty of money outside the card. The inheritance from her mother's paintings belongs solely to her. However, she doesn't want to rely entirely on that. Instead, she plans to work part-time, sell her own paintings, and live a normal life once their contract ends. As they talk, she notices that the waiters have been whispering among themselves ever since they arrived. Their eyes are drawn to Guanitai, unable to hide their curiosity. She isn't surprised. Being around him means standing in the spotlight, whether she likes it or not. She glances at him. He may look rough, but his well-defined muscles and intense aura make it impossible for people to ignore him. There's something about his presence that naturally commands attention. Then, as he continues watching the waiters, an idea forms in her mind. Turning to him, she calls his name, drawing his attention. Meeting his gaze, she casually asks if he would like to be her model. Back at home, as Raehwa prepares a meal, Guanitai casually asks if she meant a nude model. She shoots him a warning glance and tells him to be careful with his words. After all, she's holding a sharp object. Laughing, he considers it the best threat he's ever received. Setting that aside, she informs him that she'll keep cooking from now on since she doesn't like instant or delivery food. As they eat, he tells her he has something for her. First, he hands her a phone with location tracking installed, already set up with his number saved. Then, he presents an expensive wedding ring from a high-end brand. He wants her to have at least one thing that never leaves her body, no matter what happens. If she doesn't like the ring, he even suggests implanting a chip in her wrist. Without hesitation, she chooses to wear the ring. Next, he gives her an electric shock device, warning her not to take it out in public since it isn't something sold on the market. She thanks him, mentioning that she has used one before, so she'll have no trouble handling it. After that, he brings up the modeling topic again. She explains that she isn't trying to draw a portrait, but rather a feeling. The final painting might not even include a human figure, but if he allows it, she'll continue observing him, developing ideas, and sketching. Curious, he asks why she chose him as her model. What is it about him that moved her? She replies that it's everything. She wants to capture a person called him. He chuckles and asks if she's trying to seduce him, but she clarifies that it isn't like that. It's just that she hasn't felt this kind of inspiration in a long time, and for the first time in ages, she has a genuine desire to draw. She pleads with him to think positively about it, and assures him she'll take care of the modeling fee. Amused, he praises her unique taste, but tells her to forget about the fee. He'll consider it part of the $2 billion commission he received. However, he asks for one thing in return. Taking her hand, he gently intertwines his fingers with hers and requests that she have a drink with him just once. As he smiles at her, his phone rings. He picks up, his tone suddenly turning cold. He reminds the caller that he said he would contact him first and questions why they're in such a hurry. After ending the call, he looks at her and casually informs her. It was her father. He's suggesting a pre-engagement meeting. While taking a walk, Raehwa asks if he's really planning to attend the meeting. Guanitai casually replies that he is, because it sounds interesting. Contrary to expectations, he takes her father's provocations humorously and actively engages in the pre-engagement meeting. In the end, they even arrange to have dinner at DS Hotel a week later. That evening, as he opens the car door for her, he asks how her part-time job interview at the cafe went. She tells him it went well, and they asked her to start the next morning. He recalls her saying she felt suffocated staying at home. So now that she has found a job again, she should treat him to something delicious when she gets paid. She agrees. Shortly after, he informs her that he'll be out for a bit. He's heading to Incheon Airport to pick up some people he invited to help. Since dealing with her father alone might be difficult, he thought it would be best to bring in reinforcements. He adds that he'll introduce them later and tells her not to go anywhere. Curious, she asks if they work in the same field as him. He affirms that they do, reassuring her that they are reliable. He also mentions that he'll handle the payment, so she doesn't need to worry about it. Considering his words, she estimates there are at least 2 people. If they work with him, they must be highly skilled mercenaries, and if he's paying them out of the $2 billion, there won't be much left. Still, she notes that he already spent thousands on that diamond ring, so it's not surprising. As he steps out, she asks if there's anything he wants for dinner. He glances back and says he'd like some meat dishes. After Guanitai leaves, Raehwa decides to loosen up her hand a bit. It has been a while since she last sat in front of a canvas. She notes that if not for her contract with Guanitai, she wouldn't have had this peaceful time. And luckily, she even found a model. Recalling the moment he joked about being a nude model, she wonders why he said that. A sudden knock on the door interrupts her thoughts. She wonders if it's the art supplies she ordered. Telling the person to leave them at the door, she hears a voice insisting that she needs to sign for them. She hesitates, but eventually opens the door. The moment she does, a man grabs her hand. Reacting instantly, she uses the electric shocker. The man collapses. She then hears Guanitai laughing. Annoyed, she asks why he's laughing and if this isn't exactly why he gave her the device in the first place. He admits she did well. Turning to the man on the ground, he tells him to stop pretending and get up. The man groans and sits up, and Guanitai introduces him as Choi Jung, the person he was going to pick up at the airport. Raehwa silently notes that their first meeting didn't go well. As the two men chat, Choi Jung comments that she's quite an impressive woman. He points out that even if someone carries a self-defense item, fear often stops them from using it in an emergency, even with advanced training. Guanitai responds that she has used one before. Choi Jung admits that he originally thought she was just another spoiled rich girl, so he tried to shake her up a bit. But seeing her reaction, he now understands why she's called a lunatic by another lunatic. Laughing, he dubs them the lunatic couple. Guanitai tells him to apologize properly and not to pull a stunt like that again. Choi Jung agrees. Later, they sit down together and review some files related to Ryu Seoryeon's paintings. Choi Jung remarks that it's a waste to let such talent go. Even without understanding art, one can feel the raw talent behind it. Meanwhile, Guanitai examines the painting and thinks to himself that the bold and provocative expressions are almost frightening. The piece forcibly captivates the viewer's gaze and stirs emotions. However, something about it doesn't suit Ryu Seoryeon's outward appearance. She had a flashy aura. One would expect lively paintings from her, not these gloomy ones. As they go through her final work before her death, Choi Jung notes that this particular piece received harsh criticism. Ryu Seoryeon had always been admired, so suddenly facing such negativity must have been difficult to endure. Some even speculate that the backlash contributed to her taking her own life. Her last painting features a murky background with white and red flowers arranged in a disorderly manner. The rough brush strokes and thickly layered oil paint create an unsettling expression. Guanitai points out that while it seems like she attempted to maintain her usual style, something feels off. The piece lacks the intense magnetic pull that characterized her previous works. Choi Jung agrees, noting that the unique spark of her past paintings isn't present. It almost feels like an imitation of Ryu Seoryeon's style. Guanitai pauses, then asks if Choi Jung is suggesting that Raehwa was the one who painted it. Choi Jung responds that it's a strong possibility. Guanitai notes that this request was strange from the start. The deeper he investigates Daesan Construction, Ryu Seoryeon, and Lee Raehwa, the more suspicious everything becomes. His thoughts shift to Lee Raehwa, a woman who casually throws around 2 billion won and even files for marriage just to escape her stepfather. Meanwhile, Lee Jung-won goes to great lengths to block her path. And then there's Ryu Seoryeon, tangled in the strange dynamics between them. He realizes that the key to this entire web is the paintings. If Raehwa really was the one who painted Ryu Seoryeon's final piece, the situation becomes even more complicated. He also considers the possibility that her stepfather might actually be hiding her to protect her rather than harm her. But someone is lying. The question is, who? Choi Jung advises him not to trust everything Raehwa says for now. He questions whether she was truly hospitalized and states that she's mentally unstable. However, Guanitai dismisses the idea, insisting that she's perfectly normal. Then he casually brings up the pre-engagement meeting. Choi Jung jumps up in surprise, asking if he plans to invite his family. Guanitai simply giggles and reveals that he is an orphan. there's no family to contact. Choi Jung sighs, realizing that not only is the situation complicated, so is Guanitai himself. Choi Jung sincerely apologizes to Raehwa, bowing deeply. She quickly tells him that there's no need to go that far. During dinner, he compliments her cooking, and she simply tells him to enjoy his meal. He then shares a bit about himself. He isn't great at combat, but can defend himself. However, his real strengths lie in repairing firearms and tinkering with machines. He also reveals that he formed a team for his own protection, which includes himself, Gwon Itae, and 2 other people who are currently on their way. They all come from the desert. Raehwa hesitates, wondering if it's okay to bring more people since she only paid for one person's commission. But Choi Jung reassures her, explaining that the others are coming to Korea for business anyway, so they're simply joining in on the side. Then, with a smirk, he adds that it's all because of her husband. Guanitai turns to her and asks if she truly finds him reliable. She nods without hesitation. Curious, she asks Choi Jung where he learned to swear so well, considering he's lived abroad for so long. He shrugs, saying it's natural. Plus, he actually lived in Korea until high school, right next to her house in Seoul. Then, he casually mentions that he brought kandori earlier and she thanks him. Taking the ice cream, she happily notes that it's the perfect treat after a meal. Ignoring the fact that Guanitai previously insulted it as old-fashioned, she asks if he wants some. He agrees to take a bite, but instead of waiting, he grabs her hand and eats straight from her portion. She stares at her half-eaten treat in disbelief, but he simply promises to buy her another one. Afterward, he informs her that Choi Jung is upstairs on the 2nd floor, handling something. Then, turning back to her, he asks if she wants to go up too. She nods, and he teasingly asks what she plans to do if he lets her. She casually mentions drinking, but he dismisses the idea, reminding her that it's meant to be the modeling fee. As she hesitates, searching for another response, he suddenly calls her by her nickname, Yetto, meaning pretty crazy, and smirks, noting how wild it sounds. She scoffs, thinking that at least the word pretty is part of it. His expression shifts as he steps closer, his gaze locking onto hers. He studies her for a moment before questioning whether she ever feels uneasy around him. Without hesitation, she meets his eyes and states that he's on her side. His voice lowers slightly as he clarifies that he isn't referring to danger, but to the fact that he's a man. Then, tilting his head slightly, he wonders aloud what she would do if he were to kiss her right then and there. She blinks in surprise, wondering why he's making such a big deal out of something so trivial. As she starts to explain, she clarifies that it isn't just because they are a couple, even if they are only pretending. Before she can finish, he pulls her close and states that he doesn't want to, because it wouldn't just end with a kiss. The next day, Guanitai takes up guard duty while posing as a customer in the cafe where she has just started her part-time job. As she moves around, working, her mind drifts back to last night. She wonders if he truly doesn't care, or if she is the only one still unsettled by what happened. Yesterday, he had definitely been emotional. His words about it not ending with just a kiss keep echoing in her mind. There is no mistaking the meaning behind them. He wants her. But why? Of all people, why would he choose her, his employer? She struggles to make sense of it. Despite his impulsive nature, he is someone who acts with careful calculation. He knows exactly what complications come with crossing the boundary between employer and employee, yet he is still choosing to involve himself. This isn't what she expected to be thinking about on her first day at work. Just then, the door chimes, snapping her out of her thoughts. A man steps inside, and as she greets him, she immediately notes his rough demeanor. He looks like a thug. Her instincts sharpen as she considers the possibility that he could have been sent by her father. The man scans the cafe before his gaze settles on her. His lips curl slightly as he comments on her appearance, noting that she looks pretty good for a new part-timer. The man requests her number, but she smoothly glances at Guanitai before responding that she is married. He seems doubtful, assuming she is just a college student, and accuses her of lying. Still, he insists on them being friends. She firmly declines, warning that if he continues, her husband will get angry. Before the man can push further, Guanitai steps in. With an air of indifference, he casually mentions that she has a lunatic husband before warning the man not to interfere with his wife's work and to leave. The man curses at him, but Guanitai ignores it. She quickly reassures him that she is fine, reminding him that she could get fired if he keeps interfering. She recalls a past incident at another cafe and worries about history repeating itself. But he calmly tells her not to worry. She won't lose her job. The man keeps talking, pushing his luck, but Guanitai has had enough. With a swift move, he deals with him, sending him stumbling to the ground. Then, turning back to her, he drops an unexpected revelation. She isn't just a part-timer here. She's the boss. He explains that the day she passed the interview, he bought the cafe. He had been considering owning one in Korea anyway, so he took the opportunity. If she doesn't like the idea of being the boss, he insists on at least calling her an outstanding employee. Dazed, she questions if this is how he works. Through violence, weapons, buying cafes, and kissing. Amused, he immediately corrects her, pointing out that he hasn't kissed her yet. Then, with a teasing grin, he asks if she wants to do it now. She quickly shuts the cafe door, trying to steady herself. Her heart is pounding and her ears feel hot. This is insane. She doesn't want this. She should refuse this madness. But the words that leave her mouth are different from what she intended. Instead, she asks him what he meant when he said he wouldn't end it with just a kiss. His gaze darkens slightly as he replies that he will endure. For now. He's gained a little patience. And in that moment, something becomes painfully clear to her. She is drawn to him, not just to his presence, but to the wildness and unpredictability that come with him. His impulsiveness, his raw energy. It excites her in a way she never expected. Before she can process the thought further, their lips meet. The moment ignites like a spark catching fire and they begin to kiss. After a while, she pushes him away, trying to regain her composure. Then, glancing at the unconscious man on the floor, she asks when he will wake up. Guanitai casually responds that he'll be sleeping soundly for a day or so. She sighs and warns him that if he keeps behaving like this, he'll end up in prison for real one day. Her thoughts begin to spiral. Did she really just do that? The memory of what just happened lingers uncomfortably in her mind. Embarrassed, she apologizes, then hesitantly asks if she bit him too hard while trying to stop him. He dismisses the concern with amusement, pointing out that her teeth are too small to leave any real mark. Instead, he teasingly tells her to do a better job next time. But she immediately shuts him down, firmly stating that there won't be a next time. Later, she reflects on her cafe job and realizes something. The owner had been strangely eager to pass her in the interview, and now she understands why. Gwon had already bought the cafe before she was even hired. Not long after, the day of the arranged meeting with her father arrives. As she prepares for it, she checks the freezer and notices an unusual amount of her favorite ice cream. He must have bought a lot of it. Despite his rough exterior, she realizes once again that he is surprisingly considerate. Thinking about the cafe, she acknowledges that Gwon didn't just push the boss position onto her. Instead, he hired a former longtime employee, gave him a generous salary, and appointed him as the manager. That arrangement relieved her since she only had to carry the title of boss and work in the mornings without any real burden. He had created a place for her to work without hassle. Yet, beyond that, she recalls all the ways he unsettles others. His ability to scare people, his rough and unpredictable nature, his tendency to act with a fiery expression and vulgar behavior. But unlike everyone else, he isn't afraid of Lee Jung-won. The memory of him telling her she was normal resurfaces. No one had ever believed that before, yet he did, without hesitation. That realization unsettles her. His raw, unrestrained nature both stimulates and inspires something within her. It's unfamiliar and dangerous, like the impulsive kiss in the cafe. And worst of all, she fears that if she gets too close, he might disrupt her already fragile mental stability. Still lost in thought, she barely notices when Guanitai walks up to her. He casually asks if she saw the kanjoki he bought. She corrects him, saying that's not the name. He shrugs and tries again, misnaming it once more. She looks away, uninterested in correcting him further. Undeterred, he changes the subject, confirming that she plans to stop by the shop before heading to the hotel. Then, without waiting for a response, he states that they should get going. The arranged meeting is set at DS Hotel, located in Gangbuk District. The hotel is renowned for its expansive greenery and stunning views of the Han River, a prestigious establishment with a long history and tradition. Her mother's exhibitions had always been held here. As they step out of the car, a hotel staff member approaches to guide them. Raehwa notes to herself that her father won't be the only one attending. Since the hotel is owned by her uncle, Lee Hak-soo, there's a chance that his wife, Kang Mi-ok, and their daughter, Lee Se-yeon, will also show up. Once inside, they immediately encounter her uncle's wife. The woman greets them and informs Raehwa that her father will be a little late. Then, in a tone that feigns warmth, she mentions that she's here to greet her brother-in-law and see Raehwa's face after so long, as opportunities to meet are rare outside of occasions like these. Raehwa responds politely, keeping her expression neutral. The woman then asks Raehwa to stay in touch. Without missing a beat, she adds a remark about Raehwa's weight, pointing out that while the change is slight, it's noticeable due to her tall stature. She advises her to take care of herself. With a smile, she compares her own daughter, calling her cute with a bit of chubbiness because of her smaller frame, but insists that Raehwa needs to stay slim to look pretty. Raehwa silently notes that the woman hasn't changed. Moments later, her cousin, Lee Se-yeon, walks in. She greets both Raehwa and Guanitai, then immediately blushes. Flustered, she admits that she didn't get the chance to greet him properly last time. Gwon watches her with mild amusement, wondering if she ate something strange to be acting like this. Then, stepping closer, she beams at him and confidently states that she remembers him. They almost got engaged once. Raehwa laughs, treating it like a joke, while her cousin earnestly tries to jog his memory. But despite the lighthearted exchange, Raehwa acknowledges to herself that her cousin isn't lying. If she were, it would be obvious. Se-yeon has never been good at controlling her expressions. Gwon watches her carefully as she assures him that she'll keep it a secret, revealing that only she and her mother know about it. He narrows his eyes, questioning whether she's trying to threaten him. Then, turning the tables, he asks if he should do the same. Before Se-yeon can respond, her mother steps in, explaining that it's nothing of the sort. She insists that her daughter only wanted to meet him again. Softening her tone, she says that since it happened 10 years ago, it's understandable if he doesn't remember, but their families had arranged an engagement back then. Gwon doesn't confirm or deny it. Instead, he tilts his head, recalling something. He admits that he isn't sure about any engagement, but he does vaguely remember someone coming to him back then, begging for something. His words immediately wipe the smile from Kang Mi-ok's face. Her expression hardens. Raehwa gently places a hand on Guanitai, searching his face as she asks what's going on. He answers calmly, brushing it off as nothing more than a misunderstanding on their part. But she isn't convinced. She can tell he's hiding something. If she pushes now, she knows she might uncover secrets he doesn't want revealed. Secrets that could hurt him. And despite everything, she doesn't want that. So she chooses to let it go. Her decision only fuels her cousin's frustration. Lee Se-yeon's expression twists in disbelief, accusing Raehwa of deliberately pretending nothing is wrong. She demands to know if Raehwa thinks she's lying about the engagement. Without hesitation, Raehwa acknowledges that everything Se-yeon said is true, but adds that she simply doesn't care. Then, linking her arm through Guanitai's, she firmly tells her cousin to stop showing interest in someone else's husband. Se-yeon sniffles, muttering that Raehwa is being too harsh. Her mother immediately comforts her, patting her arm, but the moment is short-lived. Kang Mi-ok's eyes flash with anger, and she turns on Raehwa, raising her voice and hurling insults at her. Before the situation can escalate further, the door swings open. Chairman Lee Jung-won steps into the room. Kang Mi-ok straightens instantly, her hostility vanishing as she quickly approaches him with a practiced smile. She greets him warmly, explaining that she had only stayed behind to greet him briefly. The chairman acknowledges her with a nod, then glances around the room. His gaze settles on her daughter, eyes narrowing at the tear-streaked face. He questions why she's crying. Kang Mi-ok responds smoothly, claiming that Raehwa said something a little too harsh, which upsets Seon because she's soft-hearted and easily hurt. She quickly assures him that it's nothing serious, just a petty squabble between girls. The chairman shifts his attention to Raehwa, asking if she has anything to say. She meets his gaze, her expression unreadable. Then, with a composed voice, she tells him she has nothing to say. For a moment, silence hangs in the air. Then, without warning, the chairman raises his hand, striking Kang Mi-ok across the face. She stumbles slightly, but quickly regains her posture. His voice is cold as he reprimands her, stating that she should have ensured her daughter didn't behave so thoughtlessly in front of his daughter. Kang Mi-ok immediately bows her head, apologizing first to him, then to Raehwa. Raehwa watches as Kang Mi-ok trembles, pretending to ask if she's okay. The sight disgusts her, not because of the woman's pitiful display, but because of the man who created this entire situation. To outsiders, Lee Jung-won appears to be the perfect father, a man who fiercely protects and prioritizes his daughter. But Raehwa knows better. He never lets even the smallest mistake slide, and she can't shake the feeling that his behavior is intentional. It seems to her that, under the guise of protection, he systematically severs anyone who gets too close to her, ensuring she has no one left by her side. She doesn't want to think about what that means for Guanitai. Pushing those thoughts away, she forces herself to speak. She pleads with her father to stop, reminding him that this isn't why they are here. The unnecessary commotion is embarrassing, especially in front of her husband. Perhaps to maintain appearances, he accepts her words without resistance. With that, Kang Mi-ok and Seon leave the room, and Raehwa and Guanitai take their seats. As they settle in, her father requests the waiter to serve the meal. Then, as if this is a casual family gathering, he presents her with flowers, claiming it has been too long since they last saw each other. The moment the scent reaches her, her body reacts violently. A shiver runs through her. Her stomach twists, and an overwhelming wave of nausea crashes over her. Her breath catches in her throat. The room suddenly feels suffocating, the heavy floral scent clinging to her lungs. She needs to leave, immediately. Before she can make a move, a warm hand wraps around hers. Gwon Itae. His grip is firm yet reassuring as he holds her hand, offering a calm smile. Then, breaking the tense silence, he begins to speak. He casually brings up her mother as if discussing pleasant memories. Then, with a tone too even for comfort, he states that Raehwa is the last gift her mother left behind. However, Guanitai observes that the engagement meeting feels unusually simple. He then asks the chairman if he is aware that he is an orphan. The chairman acknowledges that he had assumed so, but remarks that Gwon was rather straightforward on the phone. Shifting the conversation, her father inquires about Raehwa's well-being. She responds that she feels emotionally stable now that she has someone she loves and reassures him not to worry. However, he insists that she still needs to visit the hospital, which she refuses. He then asks if she still harbors the delusion that he broke her finger. At this, she abruptly rises from her seat, demanding to know why he keeps denying it. Guanitai also stands and suggests they step outside for a cigarette. Meanwhile, at home, Choi Jung, monitoring the situation, complains that his eyes might fall out. Gwon responds that there's no thinner lens than the one he's using, an ultra-thin, high-tech camera. Choi then reports that the chairman's security detail is smaller than expected, with all guards armed only with gas guns. Noting the advantage of numbers, he comments on the ongoing confrontation, but remains undecided about who is telling the truth, Raehwa or her father. He remarks that since Gwon still has the opportunity to converse with the chairman, they might uncover the truth. Back at the meeting, the chairman reveals that upon investigating Guanitai's past, he discovered that all records had been fabricated, leaving no trace of his history before adulthood. Curious, he asks what kind of person Gwon truly is. Gwon calmly responds that he is simply the man who took his daughter. The chairman, deciding to be candid, states that he does not approve of him and asks Gwon to consider the situation from his perspective. Gwon admits that if he were in the chairman's place, he wouldn't entrust his daughter to someone like himself either. However, the chairman declares that he will acknowledge their relationship since his daughter has chosen Gwon. He then proposes a compromise. Both of them should move into his house. Gwon, expecting this, questions if such a demand isn't excessive for a newlywed couple. The chairman advises him not to be hostile and instead to trust him if he truly loves Raehwa. He insists that Raehwa must have told Gwon strange things about him, but she has mental issues, has undergone inpatient treatment, and hasn't fully recovered. Gwon immediately orders him to shut up. Stepping closer, he demands to know if the chairman truly broke Raehwa's finger. The chairman remains silent for a moment before explaining that his daughter lost parts of her childhood memories due to her condition. He claims that she forced herself to draw like her mother, and when he tried to stop her, she accidentally injured her finger by bumping into something. Unable to draw for a while, she supposedly resented him and fabricated lies. Unconvinced, Gwon moves forward and strikes him. A guard rushes to call for backup, but Gwon swiftly takes down the approaching bodyguards. He taunts the chairman, questioning if this is the best security he could arrange, then apologizes for getting carried away. Looking directly at him, Gwon declares that he genuinely likes Raehwa and will believe whatever she says. Unless she decides otherwise, he refuses to set foot in the chairman's house. However, he also notes that he strongly suspects the chairman did exactly what Raehwa accused him of. With this in mind, Gwon proposes a bet, challenging the chairman to prove his innocence. As Gwon Itae walks out of the room, Choi Jung questions how he could attack the chairman without thinking. Ignoring the comment, Gwon asks about May. Choi Jung reports that May and Schmidt are delaying their entry into the country and will investigate the collector, Lu Jin. Gwon then instructs him to have May determine how much of the chairman's claims are true and how much are lies. Though he firmly believes the chairman is lying, he admits there seems to be an odd mix of truth in his words. Choi Jung hesitates, worried that digging deeper might lead to illegal territory. Gwon, unfazed, orders him to investigate the hospital where Raehwa was admitted, though he plans to visit it himself soon. He agrees but points out that Gwon usually remains calm, no matter what nonsense the other party spews. Yet this time, he's acting impulsively. Again, Gwon ignores him and declares that he's off work for the day, suggesting they discuss the rest tomorrow. In his thoughts, he acknowledges that Choi Jung is right. When it comes to Lee Raehwa, his patience wears thin. It bothers him. He wants to get involved. And as a result, he keeps getting provoked. Upon entering the room where she is, he meets her brown eyes staring at him. A strange surge of impulse rises within him, its cause unknown. He silently questions himself. What does he want to do with her? Brushing aside the thought, he answers her earlier question, informing her that the meeting is over and they should leave. As they drive, Raehwa reflects on the countless questions swirling in her mind. His past engagement with Lee Se-yeon, the details of his conversation with her father, and why he never asks about her past. Yet, she lacks the courage to ask. Instead, she casually invites him for a drink, surprising him. She then suggests eating ramen together, unaware of its suggestive meaning. He immediately calls her out, questioning why she keeps making people misunderstand. Confused, she asks what's so strange about eating ramen. He counters by asking if she watches movies. She replies that she only watches action films. Shaking his head, he warns her not to say such things to others. She nods in agreement. Later, at the dining table, he comments on the ramen's spiciness, but says it's manageable. She laughs, teasing that it's because he looks cute. He stares at her in response. After the meal, she suggests having a drink. He agrees and leads her to the second floor. She hesitates, reminding him that he once said it was dangerous there. He reassures her that it's safe as long as she's with him. Upon entering, she is stunned to find an entire store of weapons. The scene reminds her of something straight out of an action movie. Curiosity piqued, she asks if he knows how to use them. With a smirk, he asks if she wants him to demonstrate each one. Alarmed, she quickly says there's no need for that. As they talk, the conversation shifts to the person Guanitai mercilessly dealt with. He questions if she is surprised, but to her, it would be stranger if he had spared someone he wanted revenge on. He acknowledges her point, but clarifies that it was more a matter of negligence, and that they were family members. After a brief pause, she asks about his discussion with her father. A thought lingers in her mind, whether he also believes she is lying. The idea that she might be seen as someone who fabricates stories due to delusions unsettles her. However, Gwon dismisses the concern, stating that her father didn't say anything reasonable. The conversation shifts as he asks about her broken finger. She explains that she had been caught secretly setting up an atelier and drawing. Her father, fearing that she would follow the same path as her mother, had not wanted to lose her, the last remaining trace of her mother. However, she does not believe that excuse. The contradiction of someone claiming to care yet sending their own daughter to a mental hospital lingers in her mind. The irony is not lost on her. She has no memory of her life before her mother's death. Her childhood recollections remain sporadic and fragmented, yet the moment of her mother's absence is vividly imprinted. She wonders whether her intense urge to draw is an unconscious struggle to retrieve lost memories, a force so overwhelming that it feels like madness. Her hand instinctively moves to create art, yet at the same time she feels a dreadful compulsion against it. Her father had always questioned why she insisted on recalling painful memories whenever she tried to draw. But to her, recovering those memories feels necessary, as though there is an unknown truth buried within them. The thought lingers, why it had to happen in front of her. The lack of answers has left her feeling like a fool. Yet, despite everything, she remains certain that she will draw him. As Gwon leans forward, his gaze locks onto hers. The depth of his eyes unsettles her, drawing her in. She finds them strikingly beautiful, as if they hold something she wants to capture. But when she expresses this thought, he only smirks. Removing them is impossible, but he is willing to offer something else. He moves even closer. The air between them shifts, thick with an unspoken tension. Without another word, he closes the distance and kisses her. Later, Guanitai leans in and whispers into her ear, warning her to stop moving. His voice takes on a teasing edge as he threatens that she will not survive if they do such a thing again. She lets out a scream, mentally questioning how anyone with a conscience could say something like that. Pulling herself out of bed, she reaches for a cigarette and asks if he is the one smoking it. Instead of answering, he questions whether she remembers anything from the night before. When she remains silent, he asks if she wants to try smoking. As she holds the cigarette, a memory stirs in her mind. She recalls the sensation of humid air, the scorching sun, and the small patches of shade offering little relief. A young boy appears in the memory, his frame delicate, his clothes revealing bruises underneath. He looks fragile, as if he might break at any moment. His face remains obscured by darkness, but she remembers him making a silly remark. The memory lingers, and she wonders who the boy was, whether she has met him before. But before she can grasp anything further, her mother's face flashes through her mind. A sudden wave of emotions overwhelms her, and she cries out. Guanitai immediately reaches for her hand, concern evident in his expression. He asks if she is okay. Struggling to compose herself, she explains that the last memory of her mother acts as a barrier, preventing her from recalling other moments from her past. Though shaken, she assures him that she is fine. Trying to shift the conversation, she apologizes for her actions the previous night, blaming it on the influence of alcohol. However, he does not see it the same way. Questioning her, he asks what exactly she regrets. She hesitates before admitting that she is afraid their relationship might fall apart. Her thoughts betray her. This fear stems from the fact that their relationship is purely contractual. The uncertainty unsettles her. Guanitai, however, remains composed. He reassures her, stating that she has nothing to be afraid of. He promises not to force her into anything, emphasizing that he had no intention of taking things seriously with her in the first place. Standing up, he extends a hand to her, suggesting they revert to their original dynamic. His tone is calm, almost indifferent, as if what happened between them was of little consequence. Before leaving, he advises her to rest more, mentioning that he has work to attend to and will be out for a while. During training, Guanitai practices in uniform when May calls. She comments on his expression, noting that he doesn't seem to be in a good mood. He brushes it off, claiming he feels great. May moves on to the reason for her call, informing him that she has checked everything he asked for. She is currently sending the data, but the slow network is causing a delay. Not long after, Choi joins the call, deciding to help out. He brings up Guanitai's eyes, prompting May to ask if something happened between him and Ploy, Raehwa's nickname. Curious, she presses him to explain their relationship. He dismisses the question, stating that it is purely an employment relationship, then urges them to focus on work. May directs his attention to page 3 of the document she sent, revealing new findings. She explains that Raehwa wasn't simply found at the scene of her mother's passing. According to testimony from the paramedics who responded at the time, she actually witnessed the entire event. Her mother had tied her tightly with a rope and deliberately showed her how she was going to take her own life, subjecting her to unimaginable trauma. The reasons behind her mother's actions remain unclear, especially since the chairman has never issued an official statement about it. The only witness, Raehwa, had suffered a severe mental shock, rendering her silent. Her claim of memory loss was the only explanation for her inability to respond. With her father actively protecting her, the police investigation quickly fell apart. However, one detail stood out. The attending physician who treated Raehwa at the mental hospital became unalive a few months after her discharge. Enjoying this recap so far? Comment Part 2 below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, ciao.